Men, recognizing red flags early isn't about being cynical or judgmental. It's about listening carefully to specific statements women make on first dates that reveal character issues, relationship patterns, or personal qualities that predict future problems, saving you from investing months or years into someone whose own words on date one already told you exactly who they are if you were paying attention. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like and hype button, and drop a comment if you've ever ignored red flag statements on a first date, only to discover months later that she told you exactly who she was from the beginning. Your experience might help another man recognize these warning signs and make informed decisions instead of learning painful lessons about ignoring early indicators. Statement 1. All my exes were crazy, toxic, abusive. When she tells you that every single one of her previous partners was crazy, toxic, narcissistic, or abusive, not one or two difficult relationships, but a consistent pattern where she positions herself as perpetual victim of universally terrible men. She's not unlucky in love or a magnet for bad partners. She's revealing either catastrophically poor judgment in partner selection that suggests deeper issues with boundaries and self-awareness, or more likely, she's the common denominator in all these failed relationships and lacks the self-reflection to recognize her own role in relationship dysfunction. What this reveals? This reveals inability or unwillingness to take accountability for relationship failures. Healthy people who've had bad relationships can identify what went wrong, acknowledge their own contributions to problems, and explain what they've learned. When someone presents every ex as villain and herself as innocent victim, she's demonstrating external locus of control where nothing is ever her fault. This inability to self-reflect or accept responsibility will manifest in your relationship when conflicts arise and she refuses to acknowledge any wrongdoing. Notice the specific language she uses to describe exes. If she uses clinical terms like narcissist or toxic for every ex, she's either genuinely unable to choose healthy partners, major red flag about her judgment, or she's weaponizing psychology language to avoid accountability, major red flag about her character. Either way, you're looking at someone who will likely describe you the same way to her next date when this relationship ends. Watch whether she shows any self-awareness about patterns. If she says, "I keep choosing emotionally unavailable men, and I'm working on understanding why," that's self-reflection. If she says, "I don't know why I keep attracting crazy people," that's victim mentality with zero accountability. The difference reveals whether she's growing from experiences or repeating them while blaming others. Pay attention to how much time she spends discussing exes. If significant portion of first date conversation revolves around her past relationships and how terrible they were, she's not over them emotionally and is bringing that baggage directly into your potential relationship. Someone ready for new relationship focuses on present and future, not dwelling on past victimhood. Statement 2. I don't really get along with other women. When she proudly announces that she doesn't have female friends, doesn't get along with other women, finds women too dramatic or catty, and all her friends are men, she's not uniquely rational or above typical female social dynamics. She's revealing she either creates conflict with other women through competitive or attention-seeking behavior, lacks the emotional intelligence required for female friendships that involve vulnerability and reciprocity, or she primarily values relationships with men for the attention and validation they provide rather than genuine friendship. What this reveals? This reveals potential for drama, competition, and attention-seeking behavior. Women who can't maintain female friendships often struggle with these relationships because female friends see through performative behavior and demand authentic reciprocity that male friends, who may have romantic interest, don't require. This inability to connect with her own gender suggests she's either highly competitive with other women, can't handle relationships where she's not the center of attention, or lacks depth for authentic emotional connection. Notice how she explains not having female friends. If she says women are too much drama, she's likely the source of that drama. If she says, I just relate better to guys, she probably values male attention over genuine friendship. If she says, women are always jealous of me, she's revealing narcissistic tendencies and competitive nature that will extend to any woman in your life, including family members. Watch for evidence of misogyny or internalized sexism. If she puts down other women generally, makes broad negative statements about female behavior, or positions herself as not like other girls, she's revealing she seeks validation through male approval and views other women as competition rather than potential allies. This mindset creates relationship problems when she feels threatened by any woman you interact with. Pay attention to how this might affect your life. If she doesn't get along with women, she'll likely have issues with your female friends, female family members, female co-workers you mention, or any woman who takes your attention. Her inability to have healthy relationships with half the population will create constant tension and limit your social life. Consider what happens when conflicts arise. Women who can't maintain female friendships often lack the communication skills and emotional regulation that healthy female friendships require and teach. The same conflicts that end her friendships with women will appear in romantic relationship. Inability to handle disagreement, need to be right, poor emotional regulation, or tendency to create drama. Statement 3. My ex still helps me with money, housing, bills, support. When she casually mentions that her ex-boyfriend or ex-husband still provides financial support, pays some of her bills, helps with her rent, fixes things at her place, or remains significantly involved in her practical life, despite the relationship being over, she's not maintaining healthy post-relationship friendship or receiving deserved support. She's revealing she either maintains inappropriate emotional or practical dependence on exes that prevents her from being fully available for new relationship, or she strategically keeps exes invested through emotional manipulation to continue receiving benefits. What this reveals inability to establish proper boundaries with past relationships and potential manipulative tendencies. Healthy breakups involve separation, not just emotional, but practical and financial. When someone maintains financial or practical dependence on an ex, they're either unable to be self-sufficient, red flag about her capability, or they're keeping the ex emotionally invested through hope of reconciliation, red flag about her character and availability. Notice how she frames this arrangement. If she says, my ex is really generous and still helps me out, with no acknowledgement that this is unusual or potentially problematic, she views using exes for resources as normal behavior. This suggests she may view relationships transactionally and will likely try to extract resources from you while maintaining similar arrangements with others. Watch whether the ex's involvement is temporary or ongoing. If she says, my ex is helping me through a specific short-term situation and then we're cutting ties, that's potentially acceptable transition. If the arrangement is indefinite, with no end date and no acknowledgement that it's strange, she's maintaining the connection intentionally, and you'll be entering relationship where her ex is still financially and practically involved in her life. Pay attention to what the ex gets in return. If he's providing money or support, ask yourself what he's getting from this arrangement. Often, he's being kept on the hook through hope of reconciliation, emotional intimacy, or other benefits. This means she's capable of maintaining multiple men's investments simultaneously, exactly what she might do with you when the relationship becomes established. Consider the implications for your relationship. If she enters relationship with you while still receiving support from an ex, she's not fully available emotionally or practically. You'll be competing for her attention, dealing with the ex's continued presence, and potentially being groomed to become the next ex who supports her while she dates someone new. Statement 4. I have very high standards and won't settle. When she emphasizes multiple times during the first date that she has extremely high standards, is very selective, knows exactly what she wants, refuses to settle, and implies that most men don't meet her criteria, she's not appropriately self-aware about her worth and values. She's revealing entitled mindset where she views herself as prize to be won rather than partner to build with, positions relationship as you proving yourself worthy of her rather than mutual evaluation of compatibility, and demonstrates she'll likely be perpetually dissatisfied because her standards serve to keep her feeling superior rather than finding genuine connection. What this reveals? This reveals transactional mindset and potential for chronic dissatisfaction. When someone leads with their high standards, they're establishing frame where you're being evaluated and need to perform rather than both of you exploring mutual compatibility. This creates relationship dynamic where you're constantly trying to meet her standards while she provides little reciprocal effort, and her standards will likely shift whenever you meet them because their purpose is maintaining her position of judgment rather than finding actual partner. Notice if she mentions any standards for herself. If she talks extensively about what she demands from a partner, but never mentions what she brings to a relationship or what standards she holds herself to, the one-directional expectation reveals selfish mindset. Healthy people think about what they offer and what they need, not just what others must provide. Watch whether her standards are reasonable or performative. If she says, I need someone honest and emotionally available, those are legitimate standards. If she says, I need someone who makes 6 figures, is over 6 feet, drives a nice car, takes me on expensive dates, she's focused on external markers and what you provide rather than character and compatibility. This mindset turns relationships into transactions. Pay attention to the underlying message. When someone repeatedly emphasizes their high standards on a first date, they're telling you that you'll be constantly evaluated, that you'll need to continuously prove yourself, and that she views herself as selector rather than equal participant. This mindset creates exhausting relationship where you're always performing and she's always judging. Consider what happens when you inevitably fall short. Everyone has flaws and makes mistakes. If she enters relationship with mindset of high standards that others must meet, what happens when you show human imperfection? Her intolerance for anything less than her standards suggests she'll be quick to criticize, slow to appreciate, and likely to keep one foot out the door, looking for someone who better meets her criteria. Statement 5. I'm very spontaneous and hate making plans. When she proudly announces that she's extremely spontaneous, hates planning ahead, lives in the moment, doesn't like to commit to future plans, and presents this as positive free-spirited trait, she's not charmingly adventurous or refreshingly spontaneous. She's revealing she struggles with commitment and follow-through, lacks the maturity to balance spontaneity with reliability, won't prioritize you enough to plan around you, and will use spontaneity as excuse for flakiness, last-minute cancellations, and inability to build consistent relationship foundation. What this reveals? This reveals avoidance of commitment and potential unreliability. While spontaneity can be a positive trait in moderation, someone who identifies strongly with being spontaneous and actively rejects planning is revealing they're uncomfortable with commitment, not just to relationships but to anything that requires follow-through. This manifests as flakiness, difficulty building consistent relationship, an expectation that you'll always be available on her terms while she maintains complete freedom. Notice if she frames spontaneity as positive or acknowledges its downsides. If she says, I love spontaneous adventures, but I know I need to work on being more reliable. She has self-awareness. If she says, I'm just really spontaneous, that's who I am, with no acknowledgement of how this affects others, she's prioritizing her freedom over consideration for partners and won't see her unreliability as problems she needs to address. Watch whether she expects you to be spontaneous too or just herself. If she expects you to always be available for her spontaneous plans, while she can't commit to plans you suggest, the double standard reveals entitlement. She wants freedom for herself while expecting your availability, which creates relationship where you revolve around her whims while she maintains complete independence. Pay attention to what spontaneity really means for relationship building. Early relationships require some consistency to build trust and connection. Regular communication, planned dates, follow through on commitments. If she's proudly spontaneous to the degree that she resists any structure or planning, she's unable or unwilling to do the work of building relationship foundation that requires showing up consistently. Consider the long-term implications. If you build life with someone who hates planning, you'll be handling all the practical aspects of life. Planning trips, coordinating schedules, making decisions about future, managing responsibilities. Her spontaneity becomes your burden to manage, and you'll be in relationship with someone who never has to be reliable because they frame their flakiness as charming personality trait. Statement 6. I just got out of a serious relationship last month, last week. When she reveals very early in the first date that she just ended a serious long-term relationship recently, whether it was last month, last week, or even last year if it was particularly significant, and she's already actively dating and on apps meeting new people, she's not quickly moving on because she's emotionally healthy. She's revealing she either hasn't processed the previous relationship and is using dating as distraction or coping mechanism, or she's serial monogamist who can't be alone and jumps from relationship to relationship without processing or growing between them. What this reveals emotional unavailability and likely rebound situation. People need time after significant relationships to process, heal, learn from the experience, and become emotionally available for something new. When someone is actively dating immediately after a serious relationship ends, they're not emotionally available. They're either distracting themselves from pain, trying to prove they're over their ex, or filling the void another person left without being genuinely ready for new connection. Notice how she talks about the ended relationship. If she's dwelling on it extensively, showing strong emotions, or clearly not over it, obvious red flag. But also watch for the opposite. If she's completely dismissive or acts like multi-year relationship meant nothing, that reveals inability to form genuine attachment or emotional depth. Healthy processing involves acknowledging the relationship mattered while also having moved forward. Watch for how much she's dated since the breakup. If she ended a 5-year relationship 2 months ago and has been on 21st dates, she's frantically filling the void rather than processing. If you're her first date since ending a recent serious relationship, you're likely a rebound or experiment to see if she can move on. Either scenario suggests you're not meeting someone emotionally available for real relationship. Pay attention to why the previous relationship ended. If she can't articulate clear reasons, if she's vague about who ended it, or if the story doesn't quite make sense, there may be more to the story she's not sharing. Recent breakups are often more complicated than presented on first dates, and you might be unknowingly entering a situation where she's technically single but emotionally still entangled. Consider what you're signing up for. Dating someone fresh out of serious relationship means potentially dealing with her processing past relationship through your relationship, getting compared to her ex, her not being emotionally available while presenting as ready to date, sudden reconciliation with her ex after she realizes she wasn't ready to move on, or being rebound who helps her get over someone else before she's ready for real connection.